everyone's here, and now he learns us to paint, yes.
Welcome, miniature fans. Today we have the Fallen Star Sailing Ship by WizKids Games. It's absolutely massive. Now, it's going to be quite a simple paint today, but I wanted to show you the ship and how I'm going to paint the ship and how we can get this done very simply and have it looking tip-top by the end of the show. Now, it's very simple. We got some basic colours. We'll probably be going for a nice flat brown by Valleco for the main primer coat, and we'll be doing some dry brushing, and with the dry brushing we'll probably go for some flat earth, and then we'll go on to some more highlights with our dry brushing later on. Now, with this kit, it's quite clever. The main masts are magnetized, so they just clip on like so. So you can take these off for painting whenever you like, and for your gaming, of course, you can place them on and off. Now, everything comes apart, so what we can do is we can take all these parts off on the ship, but what I'll do is I'll give you a little zoom in with my camera first, so just so you get the flavour of the ship. Now, the ship comes with cardboard decking, which I have to say I'm not that keen on. I would have much preferred it if they'd actually used a nice plastic decking. I don't know why they used the cardboard, but that's what they've done. So what I'll be trying to do is match that colour with my painting today. The only other little gripe I have with this miniature is the sails. Now, these sails are attached to the plastic on the masts. Now, to get these off, you're going to have to snip these to actually paint these sails, or you're going to have to paint the sails still attached to the masts, which I'll be probably doing today. But this makes it very, very hard for any painter to paint your masts without actually snipping these off, because they are totally attached and you can't slide them off. So I'll work that out when I get to it, but other than snipping these off, the only way you can paint these masts is by leaving these on. So that's going to be a tricky one, but I'll see how I get on with that. Okay, so the actual ship itself comes apart, so it does make it very easy to paint. All these parts come away, so you can take the mast off, and you can take these apart, so we can paint all this separately, because our first primer coat will be that flat brown. So what we're doing, we'll just take the ship apart, and that'll make it much more easier to get our painting done. And it's the same with the decking as well. So once you've bought the ship, you can take it all apart to make it easier for your painting. That just comes off. These clip off here, both sides, so you can take the stairs away. And then, of course, you can take away the decking. And that should leave us with the actual, just the base of the boat, which just makes it fantastic for painting. Now, as it's a beginner's video, I won't be using an airbrush. I will just do everything by hand. But if you do have an airbrush, this will take 5 seconds to spray, and you'll be away and absolutely finished within a day. But I'm going to paint everything with my Valleco paints and keep it nice and simple. So what I'll do now is I will get all this space covered with my primer of that brown that I showed you. As you can see, you've got little portholes for your cannons. All very nice, all very nice. So I'll come back once I've got all that brown added to the ship. Okay, so the boat is coming on very nicely. I've got all the first primer coat done on all my wood areas. Now I want to show you what I do with the masts, because if you look at these masts here, they're tied on, and the only way to paint your masts is either to snip them off the sails and replace them. Now what I've found out is, as you can see on this one, you can slide the masts together nice and tightly, so you can at least get these parts painted. Now what you do for that is, what I found is it's quite pliable, this plastic, so if you look here you can in fact bend the end of the initial sail, and you can actually take the first ring off and slide it over the end, get your little fingies in there, and this can slide off the end, and then you can move it up the mast. And of course, because I'm on camera doing it, I cannot for the life of me get it over that end bit. Anyway, the point is you can take this one ring here off there because it's quite flexible, so you can bend it around, and then all you do is you push the rest up into the middle like so, and then you can paint both sides, and that makes it a lot easier. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a nice even coat of paint all over the miniature. So now we're going to start doing the dry brushing, and the dry brushing is the flat earth, which is a lighter brown, and we'll be dry brushing that over the whole ship and everywhere that there's wood on the miniature. So we're talking the whole thing. So you want the biggest dry brush you can find, and we're just going over all the areas, and this will pick out all the highlights all over the ship. Very simple and easy. And this will be our first dry brush. Once this is done, we'll use a lighter dry brush. Well, that just picks out the colours nice. As you can see, the effect is instant. We'll do the same on the other side just to show you. Going along all the wood areas, the stairs, super fast and easy this part, and it's what really brings the ship to life. Is you'll have all these lovely effects going over the wood. The wood has 3 different variations. We have this one first to go over the whole of the wood area, then we'll have a light bone colour, which I'll show you after I've done this, and then we'll go over with an ink wash over the whole ship, and then it's just a final highlight over certain areas of the ship. For the portholes and all the areas with metal on this boat, I'll be using brass, so I'll be painting all the portholes with brass. So what I'll do is I will get all this dry brushed, including the big boat, and I'll come back once we got to that stage. I've decided to go with Green Ochre by Valleco for my final dry brush on these pieces of wood. It's a nice colour, and I think it will work perfectly to match in with the cardboard on the decking. So we'll just go over with this final highlight, and this will really bring out the last part of that wood. Yes, that's going to work nice. Remember, when you're dry brushing on things like stairs, work your dry brush so it looks more worn in the centre of your stairs. It looks like they've been used, keeping it darker to the outside of the stairs. Very simple. There we are. Looks like someone's been walking up and down the stairs, and the ends of the stairs look like they haven't been touched like they would in the real world. Sorry I'm on an angle today, it's just the boat is so big I'm leaning over my table to be in front of the camera to show you what I'm doing with the boat. So my setup is completely different, so there might be funny noises and sounds coming from my microphone today because I've had to move that as well. Such a big miniature, and I was trying to find room on my work surface, but it's coming along nicely. So there we are. Superb. Let's see if we can get on the picture there. So this will be going over the whole of the boat, and that will be all the wood finished. Now we'll have a choice. We can either put a brown ink wash over the whole miniature, or we can leave it like it is. But what we'll do is I'll finish all this and we'll come back and we'll see if it's worth putting an ink wash on or not, because it can be quite expensive using your ink wash on a whole boat like this. You know you're going to use up a whole bottle. Okay, so the wood is coming out fantastic. I really like how this is coming on. I will be adding an ink wash to the wood because I like to blend in my dry brushing using that ink wash. What I'm going to do now is I will add this brass, Valleco brass, to all the metal areas, all the portholes and all the doorknobs and handles. The claw on the boat, I'll also paint that in brass. And then I shall give the whole boat a coat of brown ink wash. And the ink wash I'm going to be using is the Agrax Earthshade by Games Workshop. Mainly because it's in a huge bottle and that should do the job. So what I'll do is I'll come back and show you the boat once I've added that ink wash. And then we'll go and see if we need to add any more highlights to any of the rest of the boat. All the ink wash has been added and dried, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Super happy how this is coming out. All I need to do now is add those sails, and I think we're done. This is all I need to do. Maybe a tiny weeny little bit of dry brushing on the corners, and that'll be it. So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll show you the finished miniature. So here is the finished Falling Star sailing ship by WizKids Games. It absolutely came out perfect the way I wanted it, because I was really concerned about the wood decking, but now that I've blended all the wood to kind of match in with the rest of the ship, it really works well. I still would have preferred plastic, but because of the color scheme I've done with the wood, it's all come together very nicely. So I'm very happy at the end result, and it looks really good. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll quickly show you the paints I used for today. Now today for the brass I used Valleco brass, and for all the wood I just used Flat Brown by Valleco, Flat Earth by Valleco, and I used Green Ochre for a highlight by Valleco, and I've also used the black from Valleco as well. Okay then, so let's see if I can give you a closer look at the boat. I'll try and move my webcam around a little bit. It's, like I say, a huge boat. You can see by the size of my my painting area. It's taken up nearly all my space. There we go. I'll move down a little bit. Very, very nice. Now, out of all the miniatures I have from WizKids, I don't have any pirates. So I got a ship with no pirates. That's just wrong. So I'm going to have to invest in a couple of pirates. So there we are. This is the WizKids sailing ship. Absolutely fantastic. Like I say, I did have a few issues with the masts, but as you can see, I have fixed all that. And I got no paint on the sails at all, and that's what I was concerned about. But doing that trick like I showed you earlier worked very well. Okay then, if you enjoy what I'm doing, please hit that sub button. If you want to support the channel, then please become my patron. All patrons are added to the end credits of all my videos. And if you want to buy WizKids minis in the UK, take a look at Mighty Lancer Games. The link is below my video. If you become my patron, you also get 10% off all their products from their shop. So, until next time.
Clean your paintbrushes, prime your models, and join murder.